Produced as a fleet escort during the closing days of the Clone Wars by the Republic fleet to boost the firepower of their formations against the increasingly well-organized and coordinated fleets of the Separatists, the Carrack-class light cruisers were built for the narrow mission profile of fleet defense and attack. The ships were thus optimized for rapid strikes and mass production, and would go on to have an extensive career with the Imperial Navy of the Galactic Empire. Measuring in at 350 meters long, 75 meters wide, and 75 meters tall, the Carrack class was small for typical light cruisers, though the class packed impressive firepower in the form of 10 heavy turbo-lasers, 20 laser cannon for use against starfighters. The vessel also featuring some torpedo tubes for use against larger targets when their shields had been battered down. The class featured a crew of 1,000, significantly less than a more typical general-purpose light cruiser, but due to the fact that the ship had a very narrow mission profile as designed, this, as well as their lack of provision for starfighters, was not seen as a significant issue by the design team. When the Clone Wars broke out, the naval doctrine which both the naval forces of the Republic and Separatists adopted held that starfighters represented the primary striking power of a fleet. With the increased capabilities of starfighters and the Battle of Naboo, where a small force of fighters took out a Trade Federation battleship, cited as proving the concept sound by many experts. An entire generation of ships had been produced adhering to this doctrine by both powers, and it would be these designs which would go on to fight the majority of the major battles of the Clone War, supported of course by many older designs which both parties scrounged up from various sources to fill out their ranks. However, as the war ground on throughout the galaxy, it was quickly found that the striking power of starfighters was not all that it was cracked up to be, and that when faced with first massive numbers of small anti-starfighter guns, and later larger, better targeted and coordinated guns, that they proved to be very vulnerable and soft targets, taking high casualties with little to show for it. It was quickly found as the war continued that ships on the Republic and Separatist sides would hold most of their fighters in reserve in the opening phase of an engagement, before quickly closing to bash one another at close range. And these lessons would go on to influence the ships of the next generation in both fleets, with the Republic introducing the Victory line of Star Destroyers, while the Separatists introduced the Bulwark class for their own fleets. To escort this new generation of capital ships, the Republic would introduce the Carrack class, intending to design a vessel that could pack impressive firepower in a small hull, which could be manufactured cheaply in large numbers. The cruiser being meant to act as both an escort and a strike platform, depending on the situation. Little thought was given to the ship's ability to operate away from the fleet, as the large number of Arquitens-class light cruisers and Pelta-class frigates available were deemed as more than capable of filling these roles away from the battle fleet. Planning and production of the new class proceeded fairly quickly. There was a war on after all, early production versions of the ship being in service by the final months of the war, before even the Victory-class Star Destroyers they were supposed to escort had been completed. Although the Carrack class would serve for just a few months in the closing days of the Clone Wars, they would make a significant impact in the fighting, with many ships participating in the Outer Rim sieges, as well as the Battle of Coruscant, where they would perform their strike and escort functions very well. As Palpatine's new order gradually transformed the Republic into the Empire, it was quickly decided that a whole new generation of ships would be needed to police and garrison the galaxy, with the line battleships of the Victory class being judged as too limited for the policing and garrisoning duties envisioned. While these new ships were being developed, the newly christened Imperial Navy would examine all the classes it was currently building and had in service and compare their capabilities next to what the doctrine envisioned. This would result in a sweeping series of reforms, with many designs being decommissioned and withdrawn from service after only a few years of use. One of the designs which survived these cuts would be the Carrack class, with the Navy judging that even in the new fleet, where ships were desired to have the capability to perform multiple roles that some single-role ships were so good that they could not be beaten, The class was judged as more than up to the task of escorting the new generation of multi-role capital ships which were being built, the future Imperial-class Star Destroyer. Under the new doctrine, it was judged that a standard squadron of 4 Star Destroyers would be escorted by 4 to 8 Carrack-class cruisers, with an attached pair of Arquitans or Strike-class cruisers, as well as a handful of corvettes, with the Carracks providing the close escort and strike capability for the formation, while the other cruisers provided more distant support roles. In practice, this ideal force seldom appeared in reality, with the Navy never having enough escorts for every Star Destroyer, while many Star Destroyer commanders preferred to operate independently, leaving their escorts to perform other functions some distance away. This policy would haunt many Imperial commanders as the Galactic Civil War grew in intensity, with many Star Destroyers going down to much inferior rebel forces due to their lack of escorts, making them vulnerable to light ship and starfighter attacks. Some effort to remedy these issues would be put forward, but by the time a large-scale building program of escorts was underway, it was too late, as the Battle of Endor saw the Empire lose its Emperor, its Dark Enforcer, the Lord Darth Vader, the Super Star Destroyer Executor, the second Death Star, and a significant portion of the better Imperial ships. Post-war, the New Republic would encounter many Carracks garrisoning Imperial systems, a role the little ships were singularly ill-suited to, while many warlords would continue to operate their Star Destroyers unescorted, this being due to a general lack of resources to both defend worlds and keep their precious Star Destroyers suitably screened, experienced by many of these small-time warlords. Many Carracks would fall into rebel hands, though the Alliance typically preferred not to operate the class due to their high crew requirements and limited use outside of their escort missions. Instead, many of the ships which were captured would be assigned to various member states' defense forces. Although the class was abandoned by the warlords and never accepted generally by the New Republic, the Imperial remnant would make increasing use of the Carracks as they became increasingly protective of the shrinking number of Star Destroyers under their control, with production of the class assuming a new importance as the Empire lost the capability to produce significant numbers of new Star Destroyers and repair damaged vessels due to the loss of shipyard capacity to the New Republic as the war ground on. Though often neglected by the Empire to the detriment of the survivability of their major warships, the Carrack-class light cruisers provided a capable screening unit for many decades of service, with the ship surviving a major reorganization of the fleet at the birth of the Empire, and going on to serve the remnants of said empire following the deaths of its emperor. Thank you for watching this video. Big thank you to my Patreons, who you can join below. There's a link. Joining my Patreon gets videos a day early. It gets votes on various topics once there's some more of you. Just huge thanks to my Patreon supporters. Can't say that enough. Very, very awesome. If you like this video, give it a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel, I mean, you can do that, I guess. All that good stuff. Either way, have a nice day.